This actually happened to me in the past. I don't really feel comfortable telling most people about it. At the time, I was dating a man 5 years older than me who was working. This is a bit embarrassing, but every time we met up, we would have sex. The hotel costs were adding up, so eventually we started doing it outdoors. It wasn't just about the sex for me. I wanted to take it slow and be romantic before and after too. And with losing earrings and mosquito bites, I didn't really want to do it outside if possible. But he would say, let's use the money we saved to have fun and eat good food. So since he was treating me most of the time, back then, I went along without complaining much. That night around 11, we were wandering around a park hand in hand, looking for a spot. We had just eaten kushich from a restaurant featured in a magazine, so it was a park I didn't usually go to. There wasn't much light, and it was dim. But because there weren't many trees or bushes, we couldn't find a good spot. At that point, I was starting to feel like there was something creepy about the park. Eventually, he jokingly said, "How about we do it over there? It is a public toilet." The instant I saw it, I felt chilled. I objected, "I don't want to do it in a place like this." But the more I refused, the more enthusiastic he seemed to get, and I ended up being pulled inside. Just going into the men's toilet stall felt kind of wrong. But perhaps because of growing unease and revulsion, my senses felt strangely heightened, and I noticed faint footsteps that I probably wouldn't have noticed normally. He started kissing and touching me to try and excite me. But I grabbed his arm and whispered, "Hey, I hear footsteps." "Oh yeah? Don't worry about it," he said. "Be quiet for a second. I think someone's been getting closer, then farther away since earlier." I straightened my clothes, and as we stood there silently, sure enough, I could hear footsteps, then they moved farther away again. After a while, "Are they circling around this area?" I asked in a trembling voice. But he responded casually, "I don't hear anything. Maybe a peeker. If we stay quiet, they'll go away, right?" I lowered my gaze towards the toilet door and held my breath. I could see a small pair of children's shoes. Dirty yellow shoes with a bare face design. 2 of them visible in the gap under the door, facing towards us. I covered my mouth with my hand and silently pointed at the shoes. He looked in the direction I pointed, but for some reason had an expression like, "What's that?" The shoes shuffled left and right, then suddenly moved away quickly, with the human presence also gone. "I can't do this. Let's get out of here." I pleaded with him on the verge of tears. "Geez, it's no big deal," he said as he unlocked and opened the door a crack. "There's nothing there," he said, opening the door all the way. Seeing what was on the other side, I let out a soundless scream. Near the top of the mirror above the sink, there was some reddish crayon with a child's scribbles. 2 faces, resembling a man and woman. That day, I had put my hair up with the ends splayed out on top. The woman's hair in the crude drawing appeared to imitate that hairstyle. At a loss with the now hysterical me, who had burst into tears from fear, on the train ride back he lectured me. "The scribbles were probably already there, you just didn't notice before. It was all in your imagination. Nothing actually happened to you." As he reasoned with me like that, I argued back point by point. A child couldn't reach that high up the mirror, and when I first entered the toilet, I looked all around thinking, "Is this okay?" The scribbles definitely were not there before. In the midst of this back and forth, I realized something strange. When I had mentioned the shoes, he had asked, "Shoes?" It seems that when I pointed at the shoes, he hadn't been able to see them. Knowing that made me even more afraid. About half a year later, we broke up. Over a year passed after that, and recently, When I was meeting up with a friend, he happened to show up by chance. It was awkward, but we exchanged, "How have you been?" and "What have you been up to lately?" But then he said things like, "Want to meet up and just have sex sometimes?" When I answered, "I'm seeing someone now," he said, "I have a girlfriend now too. What's wrong with it?" speaking as if it were normal. So I got annoyed, and after that avoided looking him in the eye. Instead looking at his jaw and neck area as we talked, and I noticed something was on his shoulder. When I stared at it, it disappeared, but when I looked at it vaguely, a face-like shape faintly emerged, like a newborn baby. Or conversely, a wrinkled old person. It creeped me out, but he didn't seem to notice anything himself. And since we're not involved anymore, I thought of whatever, and just said bye and went to meet my friend. It seems my friend had been watching our conversation from a distance, because after he left, she hesitantly asked me, "Hey, did that guy just now have something on his shoulder?" When I said, "Oh, like a small face or something," she heaved a relieved sigh. "Oh, so he was just joking around with something on his shoulder." I got scared thinking I was seeing something weird, and laughed. I jokingly laughed along and quickly changed the subject. There are several people who can see it, but he still can't see anything and doesn't notice. So maybe it's fine if it stays that way. It doesn't concern me anymore. As long as he doesn't sense anything himself, it's the same as it not existing. But I wonder if there will come a time when he can see them too.